I'm back in beautiful California, sitting right outside Hustler Casino right now, where the live stream's going to start pretty soon today. I'm playing 2550. I'm playing with Mariano, which I'm really looking forward to, but this is a big sweat because I'm hosting a $100,000 poker tournament, and I'm going to need a win here because someone's going to fund it, and I'm going to need to find some money. Anyways, if you want to join, click on clubwptgold.com. I'm going to be hosting this 100K tournament on March 18th. Anyone is available to play as long as you're in the 46 states that you can play on Club WPT Gold. California, where I'm currently at, anyone can play in California. So yeah, someone's got to fund that tournament. Maybe I can win some money today, and it'll just go back to you guys. So if you want to click the link, thank you for using my code on Club WPT Gold. And let's try to win some money today, mainly for you guys. Let's get this 2550 game underway. I have $30,000 to start off the action. And just a forewarning, any game with Mariano and I, you just know this will not be your typical 2550 game you'll see. Right off the bat, I pick up a pretty fun hand where there's a cutoff limp, button raised to 800, small blind calls, and I pick up 4-3 of spades on the straddle. Make the call as well as see a flop in the cutoff calls. Now, multi-way, we start off with a bang of 5-6 deuce, 2 spades, flopping the nuts straight along with the straight flush draw to go along with it. When action checks to me, I think this is actually a pretty good board for me to lead on, so I throw out $800 as a bet. Action sadly folds all the way around to Dylan, who bails me out with a call. Lovely to see that. And now to the turn we go, which is the 4 of clubs. Not really the best card you want to see. When I already have a straight, now it's even more likely that he doesn't have much to go along with it. So when he checks it over to me here, I throw out a small bet of 1,200, trying to target maybe some flush draws, some one pair hands, and luckily I get some action as he makes the call. The river is a brick 9 of clubs, and when Dylan checks once again, I'm going over my thoughts of how big I want to bet. I think smaller was the original route that I wanted to go with, but hey, we're at Hustler. People can call and have any 2 cards, honestly. And early on in the night, look, I'm known for bluffing. Let's bet a little bit bigger when I actually have a good hand. Throwing out 5,300 into the middle, and Dylan does not snap fold, which is just great to see at the very least. I can maybe get some action, although I might think it is ambitious. He does stick in a call, and I'm going to scoop up a pretty chunky pot to start off this session. About an $18,000 pot gets pushed my way, and that's $18,000 closer to funding that $100,000 tournament I'm hosting on Club WPT Gold. If you want to join in, click the link in the description below. Moving right along with Jack 7 offsuit on the button, the cutoff raises to 400. I'm going to put him to the test here, 3-betting to 1,300. Action folds around to the cutoff who ends up making the call. So we're going to play a 3-bet pot here, and the flop comes Queen 10-4, 2 diamonds. Got a whole lot of nothing, all things considered, but still got a bet as I want to fold out whatever he could have. I bet 1,000 into the middle, and my opponent quickly makes the call, which I just really wanted to win the pot right here and then. But when the turn is the 6 of spades, brings in 2 flush draws on the board, my opponent checks once again, and now definitely a decision-making point in the hand. On one hand, I have 0 equity, but on the other hand, I literally have Jack high and just want him to fold anything. But I opted to check this one. Maybe I can just steal it on a good river card, and it comes the ace of clubs. Pretty good river, all things considered. Definitely one of those cards I wanted to see that maybe I can steal this one. My opponent checks once again, and now definitely going to size up, and I throw 4,000 into the middle. 4,000 into a $4,800 pot. It's almost a pot-sized bet, and my opponent is not going anywhere. He actually puts in a check raise to 1,500. And I look at his stack because I kind of contemplate on maybe putting in yet another raise myself. But at the end of the day, with only about $12,000 behind, it seems unlikely that my opponent could fold if I were to go all in. So I reluctantly just let this one go, let my opponent have it, and he proudly shows over the King 10 as a bluff. So got to give props to my opponent. Well played and way to win the pot here. With the action brewing early on in the stream, there's a low jack raise to 500, cutoff calls, button makes the call, and I got pocket 9s in the straddle. Thinking that this is a good enough hand to squeeze, definitely want to eliminate and thin out some of the field, I 3-bet to 3,500. But one thing I totally forgot about playing on Hustler Casino Live is that not a single person will fold and respect one of my 3-bets. So all 3 opponents end up making the call. So we're playing a very bloated pot, completely out of position here, which I don't love to see. And the flop comes 10-7-6 rainbow. Pretty tricky flop with my hand, as I do have a pretty decent pair, second pair, and a straight draw to go along with it. I decided to check here into 3 other opponents, and then the low jack just goes all in for about $10,000. And now I'm kind of praying someone else has a hand to call, because I just know with pocket nines against this opponent, maybe he can just have a draw of sorts, but I think I have just too good of a hand to fold. But yeah, action ends up folding to me. I stick with the original plan, which is to call, I guess. I mean, I have some outs with a straight draw, and maybe he can have like a 7 or something. It's pretty ambitious thinking, but he does not have a 7. I get shown the goods. He has king 10 of spades. We're going to run it one time. And right off the bat, now immediately things are downtrending as I lose a $35,000 pot. So that run good from the first hand flopping the straight was not enough to help me sustain this blow, as now I am officially stuck on the session, down a couple $1,000s, and hoping things go better here. When I pick up 6-5 offsuit on the button here, interesting dynamics as we're playing this bounty button game. Essentially, if you win 3 hands in a row, you collect a $1,000 bounty from every single player at the table. And I have 2 buttons in front of me, so hoping to win the 3rd hand in a row, I'm incentivized to play hands, so I call on the button, and Mariano ends up raising it up to 3,000. Here, I'm acting as if I have a 7K ante in the middle of the pot, so I'm going to have to see a flop for $3,000, and Ishan calls in the small blind as well. So 3 ways, and we've got almost $10,000 in the middle. The flop comes 7-5-6, bottom 2 pair in a spot where I'd love to win this pot. Like I said, I have a 7K bonus if I win this hand here. So I throw out a bet of 6,000 when action checks over to me here, and Ishan just goes all in for about $15,000, $18,000. Mariano gets out of the way, and I'm in here with 2 pair. Of course, I snap call. Ishan wants to run it twice, and I'm always happy to let whatever my opponents decide. So we run it twice, and I see some scary news. My opponent has a straight draw, not the kind of hand I wanted to see here with bottom 2 pair, but the first run out comes clean, 10 followed by a deuce. So I win the first board, allowing me the button, which means I will automatically lock up 7,000. Let's win the rest of this pot though, and the run out comes a 3, giving him a straight immediately. Gonna need to boat up, but it does not come. So we're gonna chop up the main pot here, pretty much chopping up Mariano's money in this $40,000 pot. But like I said earlier, this was the 3rd hand in a row that I've won, so at least I pick up $7,000, as everyone at the table owes me $1,000 each. So kind of torn about this result. Obviously would have liked to scoop the whole pot, but I guess I'll take the $7,000 as a bonus. Next interesting spot where an early position player limps in for 200. I've got the $200 straddle on, and we get Austin raising to 800. Looking down at king 10 offsuit, I think it's playable enough to see a flop at the very least, and Adi makes the call as well. So 3 ways to a flop of queen, queen, 10, 2 hearts. When action checks to Austin, he fires out a very small bet of 600. Doesn't seem very indicative of a strong hand that he may have, so definitely going to put in a check raise right now with a pair of 10s and a decent kicker. Think I can get called by worse. There's some draws out there as well, and I make it 3,000. Now, surprisingly, Adi puts in a call for the 3,000, which is somewhat scary news to me. I think my opponent can have a lot of queens here as played, maybe some draws, but definitely going to tread cautiously as the other opponent folds, and we go heads up to a turn, which is the 5 of spades. Like I said, definitely want to tread cautiously. We're playing relatively deep, and I don't have the best hand that wants to really barrel a bunch of money into the middle. So I check, and now my opponent fires out $5,000, about a half pot sized bet. And here, yeah, don't think I can fold just yet. I have a really good 10. I still beat some value and definitely still beat some draws. So gonna make the call and assess on the river, and it's a king. So now hitting top pair, I've improved to 3 pair on the board. I check yet again to my opponent, and he doesn't take too long before firing out another half pot size bet of $10,000. On the surface, it seems like I have a really good hand to just make the call, but also, I mean, as played, it seems like my opponent's just going to have a strong hand a lot of the time. So I decided to just let this go. One of the rare times I'll fold such a strong hand like this and believe my opponent, and luckily I do, as I get shown that he had an open-ended straight flush draw, binks the straight on the river, but at least I get to save $10,000, and I'm able to sleep at night knowing I made a good fold. We got Mariano involved yet again, raising on the button to 500. I get the undergun player to my right to call, and I make the call as well with King Jack offsuit, putting on the $200 straddle. We're going to go three ways to a flop of Queen 10-5. Pretty great flop as I'm open-ended. Action checks to Mariano, who throws out 1,000. Pretty large bet here, considering the size of the pot. And when the undergun player calls, I opted for a call here as well. Maybe I can check raise on later straight, or maybe we just bink it on the turn. It's the 4 of hearts. Not the bink I was hoping for, and once again, action checks to Mariano, who throws out an overbet of 5,000. Now, the undergun player folds, and I've definitely got a decision to make, and I don't think calling is for sure one of them. I'm definitely ruling out call, as I don't really want to call a pot-sized bet and play this hand out of position with just a draw. So if I'm leaning towards a fold or a check raise, you guys know what's coming. I check raise to 14,000, trying to put Mariano in a pretty tough spot, knowing he's very capable of just totally bluffing here, which is totally okay, as I could win the pot now. But it seems like Mariano actually has a much trickier decision than that, as he goes into the tank, really hoping that he ends up folding, because I might have to fire a really big barrel on the river to get him off his hand. But he does end up folding, letting me win this pot as I get this bluff through in a $23,000 pot, hoping to ride some of the momentum my way. So winning 2 hands in a row, feeling pretty good. Maybe I can crawl out of the hole in this session. We pick up 5 deuce of diamonds on the button, and we end up playing a 6-way, 5-way limped pot. Many people in the pot with 5 deuce, and it comes 3 deuce deuce. Hitting trips here. I'm in position on the button. Action checks to me, and I fire out $700 into the field. We get some opponents around the table to make the call, so definitely just thinking I need to fade a spade, considering there's so many opponents involved in this hand, and the most likely draw is, of course, the spade draw. But the turn is the 8 of spades, just complete disaster, of course, and even worse, Efan decides to lead out for $2,000 into the field. Definitely with Efan leading here seems really strong, and I don't love my situation now with trips, but I still think I could hit a disguised full house and maybe play a really big one for a lot of money. So I make the call, and we're going to go heads up to the river, which is the Jack of Hearts. Here we go, completely missed my full house draw, and Efan fires yet again for 4,800. And I think given the dynamics of the table and how Efan's been playing so far today, can't imagine him to really be folding ever, so I just let my cards go, fold them into the muck. And I actually end up saying that this was the easiest fold that I've ever made, as Efan is not really one to bluff off a whole lot. And here we go. Of course, I get shown the correct news that he did have a flush indeed. So here we go, folding trips, but I did kind of bait Efan to maybe try to bluff more. And that leads into the dynamics of the next hand, where I raise King 9 offsuit for $400. Efan calls on the button, 2 other players call around, and we're going to go multi-way to a flop of Ace King 9 rainbow. Bottom 2 pair yet again. Looks like I'm hitting all of the cards I need to today, trying to string up the momentum to win in this session. I bet $800, and Efan is the only caller. Now going to a turn, which is the 5 of clubs, a complete brick on the board, and I just think I have the best hand so often. If my opponent has pretty much Ace 9 is the only hand he could have, then that's pretty unfortunate, or even Ace 5. But I'm going to put that to the test as I put out an overbet of $4,500, thinking that on a brick turn card, I can just fire a lot more. Efan's not going to have the strongest hands like aces and kings, and maybe not even 9s, as they could 3-bet. Anyways, here Efan takes his time and now just raises me to 13,000. Oh, bro, this is not super friendly. I mean, I'm playing against one of the tighter opponents at the table. I just baited him saying he doesn't bluff enough. Could he be bluffing here? I'm not 100% sure, but I definitely need a call. My hand is too good to fold at this moment. And here we go. We got a big pot ballooning up on the river we go, which is the Queen of Diamonds. So some straight draws get there, but overall, not super concerned with how this hand has played. I don't think like a hand like Jack 10 or even Jack 10 of clubs would want to raise me in position, but I check it to Efan as he has the betting lead, and he takes a while before opting on a decision of firing out $25,000. Really went from being confident on the turn to not so confident on the river here. I mean, like I said, can Ethan even be firing off in this manner as a bluff? I'm not sure, but like my hand just seems way too good to even consider folding if I respected Ethan as a poker player at all. So I just stick in the call, and yeah, he's not bluffing. Will Ethan ever bluff? Time will tell, as he has pocket nines and is going to win nearly an $80,000 pot against me. I'm now stuck piles on the session, probably close to minus $60,000 at this point. So as a reasonable person, I load on all the money I brought with me. I put on the rest of the $50,000 I had behind me. So I'm in the game now for $150,000 total. So I've got some work to do, and work it shall be, because this next hand once again has some really interesting dynamics. I once again have won 2 small pots in a row. So there's some dynamics here where everyone is rooting against me to win this next specific pot, and Mariano ends up blind limping for $400. Button gut calls, the straddle calls, and I look down at 10-7 offsuit. I decide to check my straddle here. I think I have the best opportunity to win this hand by seeing a flop, and man, what a good decision this was to see a flop of King 7-10 rainbow. Bottom 2 pair yet again, and there's not a lot of money in the middle, and considering how incentivized I am to win this pot, I decided to go for an overbet of 3,000, about 2x the size of the pot here. And Mariano, somehow his blind limp seems to have connected with this board, because he decides to raise to 6,000, putting on a little min raise here. And when action folds back to me, we're head to head against Mariano yet again. And this time I actually have a pretty good hand, so I decided to 3-bet him out of position to $15,000. Somehow this pot went from having 1,500 or 1,600 in the middle. Now we're just putting in a raise for $15,000. And what's even crazier is Mariano announces all in. Oh my goodness. What is going on? Mariano covers me. I just added on for all the money that I brought with me to Hustler, and it's not a small all-in. Obviously, you can see I'm facing a decision in a raise for about $90,000 total, $95,000 total to be exact. So this could be an insanely massive pot if I make the call. Guys, I don't know what to do here, to be honest with you. I don't know what leveling war and what level Mariano's playing at, but bottom 2 pair facing an all-in for pretty much $100,000 is not the most fun spot to be in. And I go through my options, like what could he have? And he blind limped, so he could have literally any 2 cards, but it seems very likely and very clear he has a king. The issue is I don't know what his kicker is. It could be a 10, it could be a 7, both of which would have me completely drawing dead. But I've seen enough footage, and I know Mariano enough to go for these very thin spots with some thin value, and maybe he just thinks I'm full of it. And here, I decided to count out my stack. I don't even know why I did that. I actually announced mid-game that me counting out the chips I had in front of me had no meaning whatsoever to whether I decide to call or fold. It's whether I believe he has a better hand than me or not, and whether I can even talk myself into a fold of bottom 2 pair here. But at the end of the day, look, someone has to fund the $100,000 that's going into the tournament on Club WPT Gold. I'm hosting it, so maybe this is my ticket out into hosting that tournament I'm running for you guys. If you're in the United States and you want to play some online poker, you can finally do so on Club WPT Gold and use the code Rampage when you make an account to be eligible to hop in and play on this $100,000 tournament that I'm hosting. Exclusively for people who use my code, and it's going to be running on March 18th, so mark your calendars, and I can't wait to see you guys there. So back in the action, this is for sure something that's on my mind, and well, let's close our eyes. I'm still going to be friends with Mariano if he has me beat, but I make the call, and here we go, nearly a $200,000 pot up for grabs, and I've got bottom 2 pair, and I hear the great news, he's got King Jack. I don't even know how big the pot is, but I do ask Magic, and at the end of the day, look, this pot is way too big. I want to run it twice. Usually I'm a run it once kind of person, but for a pot that's worth, half of most of the homes in the country here, I've got to run it twice, mitigate some variance, and see what happens. So here we go. 2 runouts. I'm a 67% favorite to win. Let's hold.
And Mariano finds a jack on the end for a better 2 pair.
The jack really crushed my dreams here, but maybe this is exactly why I decided to run it twice and the king on the second turn. completely ruins my hopes of winning this pot at all. Mariano, the luck box, the true luck box, ends up sucking out and winning this $200,000 pot versus me. And here we go. With every second that passes, the reality sits in. I just lost all the money I brought here. I pretty much just lost a house at this poker game. Even though I had a 67% chance to win, the poker gods don't care about numbers. They don't care about feelings and emotions and the real life dollar values that it could have helped me. But yes, I'm going to take one step forward, walk out of the casino with a tail between my legs, just knowing that I lost a $200,000 pot. There goes my friend with all my money. Unfortunately, I did have to leave out of necessity. I had no more funds. So this is not the way you want to start off the year playing cash games. I feel like I haven't really won much at all. Today I was in the game for $150,000, out of the game for $0, and I still need to fund the $100,000 tournament that I'm hosting on Club WPT Gold, the exclusive tournament. But anyways, it's going to be running on March 18th. If you want to use my code Rampage, click the link in the description below on Club WPT Gold. Today was bad. Ran out of all my chips, couldn't even continue playing, and I lost pretty much every single hand. So this was the biggest loss in a long time, and actually taking it really well. I don't know why I'm taking it much better than before, but yeah, minus 150. I'll see you guys in the free roll tournament.